What's up, everybody? The latest on the transfer portal, including a shocking quarterback transfer likely happening from one SEC school to another. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. We'll get you caught up with all the latest news going on through the transfer portal, which officially opened yesterday. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start this season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. All right, let's dive right into it as we head out to the transfer portal. And a little bit of shocking news yesterday as we got a report from On3 Sports that they have predicted Mississippi State to land Oklahoma transfer quarterback Jackson Arnold. We heard last week that Arnold was going to enter the transfer portal. And look, there's a lot of quarterback needy teams out there, but Mississippi State didn't seem like one, right? I mean, Michael Van Buren looked like a pretty damn good freshman this year playing out there. But Pete Nakos of On3 logged a prediction on Monday, the day the portal opened, that Oklahoma starter Jackson Arnold will transfer to Mississippi State. The Oklahoman reported last week that Arnold was going to enter the portal. Obviously, there was a connection with Jeff Lebby, who was the offensive coordinator the previous 2 years at Oklahoma and helped recruit Jackson Arnold to Oklahoma. Now he is the head coach at Mississippi State. Arnold was a true freshman last year for Lebby, and so it would make sense. In his redshirt freshman year, he starts for Oklahoma. Things don't go great. Fire offensive coordinator. They're bringing a new OC, and he's on the move to go reunite potentially with Jeff Lebby. Now, Arnold, like I said, was a five-star recruit in 2023, the number 10 player, number 4 quarterback. He was a backup to Dylan Gabriel as a freshman. And as Dylan Gabriel left in the portal, go to Oklahoma or to Oregon. Oklahoma committed to Arnold as the quarterback of the future, but didn't play out very strong this year. Now, Mississippi State, like we said, not necessarily in need of a starting quarterback. Blake Shapen came in, suffered that season-ending injury after week 4. There is some thought that maybe he could apply for a medical redshirt waiver from the NCAA. But Michael Van Buren's the one that I'm just shocked by. Like, he played very well in some games this year. I thought he showed a lot of promise as a true freshman. And, by the way, Mississippi State also signed 4-star Kamario Taylor in the 2025 recruiting class. But some reports that NIL could be a factor, that maybe some Mississippi State boosters saying, let's pony up some cash. Let's go get Jackson Arnold, bring him to Mississippi State. Just very, very interesting move there. I just thought Mississippi State was a school out. They're set at quarterback with Jackson Arnold. But as you can see, I mean, this day and age of the NIL transfer portal, like, you can never have enough good quarterbacks. You know, Oklahoma turned to Michael Hawkins at one point last year. Are they thinking Hawkins is the guy they want to roll with moving forward over Arnold? Or maybe they were saying, you know, it's a quarterback battle here. Maybe Jeff Lebby saying, come to Starkville, you'll be my starter. And then there's Michael Van Buren in turn transfer. So it'll be fascinating to see how it plays out. But nonetheless, a little bit of a shocker there yesterday with that news. It's not official yet. We'll wait for the official announcement to be made where he will choose a school. But again, On3, Pete Nakos, they don't miss much. So Mississippi State also true freshman wide receiver Mario Craver entering the transfer portal. He had almost 400 yards and 3 touchdowns this past season. So, hey, man, you don't want to stick around and play with Jackson Arnold if that's the guy coming in. All right, other news going on around the transfer portal. Over at Auburn, we know that they have their whole quarterback room is basically departed. Peyton Thorne will graduate. Hank Brown and Holden Garner hit the portal. In fact, Hank Brown officially entered the transfer portal yesterday, even after an announcement a week ago. But On3 predicting that Auburn is going to land Stanford transfer Ashton Daniels. Daniels recorded 1,700 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions this season. So you look at those numbers and you go, ugh. But a lot of Auburn faithful and folks saying this is not it. Auburn's going to we're going to add quarterbacks to this room, quarterbacks being the key word here. So if you're an Auburn fan, don't get all huffy puffy on Ashton Daniels. Oh God, this is the quarterback we're going to get? 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions? You're adding to the room. There's another name out there, Caden Salter at Liberty, who has ties to Hugh Freeze, obviously, in this previous stop. So, he could be another guy, but it doesn't feel like that's it. And I keep hearing from some Auburn folks, including our own Zach Blackerby, locked on Auburn, that there's a big fish out there that Auburn wants to land. I'm looking around going, who's the big fish? Somebody who hasn't announced yet? So we shall see. But look, if Hugh Freeze wants to hit the reset button in the quarterback room, more power to him, because quarterback play has been atrocious these last 2 seasons at Auburn. And you got stud receiver after stud receiver in that freshman class from last year. One other one, former Alabama and Auburn DB Antonio Kite. He entered the transfer portal. He was dismissed from Auburn back in October. And wide receiver Caleb Burton officially entering the portal yesterday. Over at Tennessee, Josh Heupel losing Tennessee wide receiver Chas Nimrod. He entered the portal late yesterday. 315 yards and a touchdown in 2 seasons. He emerged as an option last year in Tennessee's passing game. Was a key piece stepping up when Brew McCoy and Dante Thornton were dealing with injuries. But you got Squirrel White, got Matthews, the receiver from this past recruiting class. You got Chris Brazel. I mean, it's kind of a crowded wide receiver room. So, but Nimrod appeared in every game, along with making starts against A&M, Alabama, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. So it's a nice receiver that's going to be on the move, going somewhere else. Over at Arkansas, true freshman corner Selman Bridges. He entered the portal yesterday, 6'3", 180 pounds. Will have 3 years of eligibility remaining. Was a 4-star recruit in the class of 2024. Also, defensive backs TJ Metcalf and Tevis Metcalf entering the transfer portal. Sophomore TJ was a bright spot in an otherwise struggling secondary this year. He had 57 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 7 pass breakups. So we'll see. Are they a package deal as brothers? Are they going to go on to the next stop together? We will see. Over at Texas A&M, they are getting ready for their bowl game, but they are seeing more guys enter the portal. Cam Dewberry, offensive guard, announcing he is entering the transfer portal. Played for the Aggies the last couple of seasons. Was a key contributor. He's played in 32 games over the past 3 years. Made 8 starts. Was a 4-star prospect in the class of 22 rather. He was the number 3 interior offensive lineman. He's now the 14th player from A&M to enter the portal. Quarterback Conner Weigman officially entered the portal yesterday. And I was hearing some rumblings that the University of Houston and Willie Fritz really eyeing Conner Weigman. Does he want to make that jump over to the Big Ten and leave the SEC? Also, A&M defensive lineman Gabriel Brownlow Dindy officially entered the portal. He was a 5-star in the class of 2022. Speaking of quarterback, so Conner Weigman's moving on. They've got Marcel Reed, obviously, will be back. On 3, predicting that A&M is going to land UAB transfer quarterback Jacob Zeno. Very proven quarterback. 6 seasons at UAB. He's thrown for over almost 5,000 yards and 32 touchdowns in his years in college ball. So Zeno, very accomplished quarterback. Is he going to go in there and compete with Marcel Reed and try to beat him out? I can't imagine he wants to go sit as a backup at A&M, but we shall see on that one. That's a big name. Could be on the move there to A&M. Over at Alabama, they continue to see more guys enter the portal. On Sunday, Caleb Odom and Kendrick Law, the 2 wide receivers, entered the portal. On Monday, tight end Danny Lewis hit the portal. He was a 3-star tight end in the class of 2022. Had 1 catch from a game against Tennessee Chattanooga last year. He will have 3 years of eligibility remaining. Also, Alabama D lineman Hunter Osborne entered the portal. He's a former top 200 recruit from 2023. And like we saw, Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, both officially entering the portal yesterday. Over Georgia, we mentioned Michael Jackson, the wide receiver, entering the portal over the weekend. On Monday, Nitro Tuggle entered the portal. He just finished his freshman year at Georgia with 3 catches for 34 yards. When he gets Tennessee, he had 2 catches in that game. It was a big-time prospect. It was a 4-star prospect in the composite rankings, the number 2 prospect from the state of Indiana, number 102 overall. So that is now the 3rd player, joining DB Julian Humphrey, who entered the portal. And Actually, it was a fourth guy who entered the group yesterday. Safety David Daniels Sisavan entering the portal. He was a 4-star in the class of 2021. So Georgia very much in this playoff, getting a bye week, and they got guys hopping into the portal. Over at Ole Miss, we announced, or it was announced over the weekend, backup quarterback Walker Howard was going to enter the portal. He was a former LSU transfer that transferred from LSU to Ole Miss, a former top 50 recruit in the class of 2022. There are multiple predictions that he is going back to the state of Louisiana, but not to LSU, to ULL, Louisiana in Lafayette. So Walker Howard jumping out of the SEC over to, what are they, Sunbelt, AAC, one of those. Over at Oklahoma, offensive lineman Garion Hatchett officially entered the portal. He's a former Washington signee, was a 4-star in the class of 2020. And according to some reports, he is going to transfer back to Washington. So kind of funny. You see a guy leave a school and then go back to that school. Also, Oklahoma offensive lineman Joshua Bates is planning to enter the portal. 6'3", 310-pound O-lineman, will have 3 years of eligibility remaining. Started in 2 games this season and appeared in 5. And Oklahoma corner Jaden Rowe, he entered the portal as a 4-star in the 2022 class. Over at Texas, D lineman Aaron Bryant, he entered the portal, a 4-star in the class of 2022. Jonte Cook, remember he left the team somewhere mid-season. He has entered the portal on 3, announcing Texas A&M and Oregon, 2 schools to keep an eye on for him. Texas edge Tassili Akana, he entered the portal, 6'4", 220-pound edge / linebacker, will have 3 years of eligibility remaining. He was in that Arch Manning class. I was looking at their signing class from 2 years ago, and he was like one of their top 6 recruits in that group. And then lastly, Darian Gillette, linebacker, entering the portal, 6'3", 227 pounds. He will have 3 years of eligibility remaining. Was the number 7 linebacker, number 85 overall recruit in the class of 2023, according to On3. Over at Kentucky, both their receivers, Barry Brown and Dane Key, we knew they were going to enter the portal. They officially went in yesterday. Also, running back Chip Trainum entered the portal. He was the one who, I think, started at Arizona State, went to Ohio State, transferred to Kentucky this offseason, and was banged up. Took him several weeks to get healthy and just never really got much action. Also, Matt Jones of Kentucky Sports Radio announcing Gavin Wimsatt, the quarterback, he is going to hit the portal. He came in this past offseason from Rutgers, spent the first 3 seasons of his college career at Rutgers. Had some nice, moments at Kentucky this year in terms of using his legs and his running ability. I want to say made some plays in that game against Ole Miss. It was so long ago, I can't remember. But nonetheless, at Florida, quarterback Parker Leise, Lease, he is entering the portal. Over at LSU, J.K. Johnson, cornerback, he is entering the portal. His former Ohio State signee, was a top 60 recruit in the class of 2021, battled injuries these past few years at LSU, hasn't really gotten a chance to show what he can do. And then lastly, a few more tidbits here on big names outside of the SEC. Bear Alexander, remember he started his career at Georgia, transferred to USC after his freshman year. On Monday, he re-entered the portal after 2 seasons at USC, 47 tackles, 1.5 sacks in his time at Southern Cal. So we'll see where he ends up. Some other bigger names to keep an eye on: Wisconsin quarterback Tyler Van Dyke. Remember, he transferred from Miami, went to Wisconsin. Texas Tech wide receiver Micah Hudson, he officially entered the portal. That's a name to keep an eye on. Heard LSU possibly tied to him. Louisiana Monroe, former Oklahoma quarterback General Booty entered the portal. Just wanted to say his name because it's a great one. Boston College quarterback Thomas Castellanos entered the portal. He's one that Boston College is winning a lot of games earlier this year with him. That would be an interesting name to keep an eye on for some quarterback-needy teams. And then lastly, Georgia Tech transfer wide receiver Eric Singleton Jr. He is in the portal. He is going to visit Ole Miss, Georgia, and Auburn this week. Currently ranks as the number 1 player in On3's transfer portal. So Eric Singleton visiting several SEC teams. That could be a name to keep an eye on for some SEC schools next year. All right, thanks again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we will get into the latest news on Carson Beck and his injury. That's coming your way in just a sec. Well, first, I want to remind you guys, today's episode presented to you by our friends over at FanDuel, and you can get ready to tackle all the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. FanDuel Sportsbook app going to give you everything you need to place your live bets all in one place. And when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can go right to their website, check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more in the same place where you're placing your bets. And that is over at FanDuel.com. Again, you can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. And just checking it out right now, they've got the latest college football odds up there for the bowl games, for the playoffs, and just checking on some of the SEC lines. Clemson is an 11.5-point underdog at Texas. That game coming up on December 21st. So if you like Texas minus the 11.5, you can get in on that. If you like Texas money line, they are minus 430. So not much value there on Texas to beat Clemson straight up. The other one is Tennessee. They're catching 7.5. Tennessee plus 7.5 at Ohio State, plus 205 money line. So if you like Tennessee to pull off the upset over the Buckeyes, you can get that. It's over at FanDuel.com. Again, that is FanDuel.com. Go check them out today. All right, roll along here. Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And we got some more news and notes to jump into here. Again, we're going to keep you up to date on the latest transfer portal news. It's crazy because it's not just transfer portal news of guys entering the portal, but we're already getting, now that they can officially enter the portal, I mean, the guys at On3 and some of the other outlets out there, they are completely on top of this. I mean, On3 is going as far as to say, to make predictions on where guys are going to end up. So let's jump over to some news over at Georgia. We got an official update from Georgia on quarterback Carson Beck and Brett Thorson, their punter. No timetable on Beck's return, but Thorson is out for the season. Carson Beck, this is from a statement from Georgia. Carson Beck is exploring treatment options for his elbow injury he suffered Saturday. According to the school, there was no timetable for his return. School did not detail the nature of the injury. A lot of people are saying UCL. You know, that's what they think it is. And, you know, if it is the UCL, you know, some people are throwing around Tommy John or whatever. Talking to some people I know, you know, deal with those injuries. They say, I mean, UCL could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months. Now, for a quarterback on his throwing arm, it's a little bit more difficult than that. So, I don't know. Maybe they got a first opinion they didn't like, and now they're seeking a second opinion. Whatever the case is, they have yet to rule him out officially. They're saying it's trending towards he will not play in the Sugar Bowl. Again, that's unofficial yet. They haven't technically ruled him out yet, but we shall see. If it's a complete tear of the UCL, you know, then he's definitely out. But if not, you know, could he recover in time for a potential second playoff game for Georgia? We'll see. But either way, Gunner Stockton, get him ready. He's got 2 weeks to get ready for their playoff game where they'll play the winner of Indiana, Notre Dame. Like I said, they get the first round bye, and the first round doesn't start till 2 weeks from now. So got a couple weeks for Beck to kind of take care of this thing, about a month, right? If he were to come back for their second playoff game. But we'll see. The SEC Network gang, they were making their picks on the college football playoff and who they think could make a run. Basically, the analysts believed Georgia, despite its question, a quarterback with Carson Beck. The crew had all the Bulldogs taking down number 1 Oregon in the national championship on January 20th. So, you know, I was running through the bracket yesterday. That was kind of what we kept coming back to, was Georgia versus Oregon. I think they're the two best teams. Not to say Texas can't get in there, but I think even with the, you know, look, if Carson Beck were healthy, I would feel way better about picking Georgia to win their third championship in 4 years. Run game's dominant, defense dominant. You know, Beck not being in there, can Gunner Stockton get it done? I'll tell you this. I mean, he would certainly build quite a resume for the future if he were able to do that. But we'll see. Other SEC news going on around the conference. Over at Alabama, Kalen DeBoer talking to reporters Sunday evening, saying he was certainly disappointed for Alabama to be left out of the playoff. He said Bama felt like they deserved to be in. Of course, his athletic director, Greg Byrne, tweeted out earlier in the day a whole diatribe about why they should be in. Burton said Alabama would need to assess the way it goes about scheduling non-conference games in the future. Kalen DeBoer was asked about that Sunday night. He said, well, that's something I'm going to let Greg lead the charge on. Alabama does play non-conference games, or did play non-conference games against Western Kentucky, South Florida, and Wisconsin, as well as FCS Mercer. USF finished 6-6. Wisconsin finished 5-7. So, do you want to just say we'll play all cupcakes in the non-con and the SEC's tough enough? A lot of these future games are already scheduled. Alabama opens at Florida State next year to open up the next season. That certainly looked like a much tougher game when they scheduled it, but we'll see what FSU does in the portal. I'm sure Alabama, the early favorite in that one. Another note over at Ole Miss, they're getting ready for their Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, and Trey Amos, defensive back, announced he is not done yet, and he plans to play in the Gator Bowl. So we've seen this from a couple of guys across college football saying they plan to play in these, I guess we'll call them meaningless bowl games, right? But like, it's a little bit of a bucking of a trend, because for, the past decade now, the trendy thing has been to see a lot of guys opt out of the bowl game. I'm not going to play in the bowl game. I'm going pro. I'm going to go start preparing for the draft. Top 10 guys, I get it. But if you're a middle round pick, playing your bowl game, man, like go finish the season with your bros, or brothers in arms, however you want to say it. But yeah, Trey Amos, surprising. I like that. And then we've heard, Colorado, at least Dion said about a week ago that, he wanted Shedeur and his guys to play. Now, Shedeur and Travis Hunter, I'm seeing mock drafts of their slate as number 1 or number 2 in the draft. So I don't know. Is that the right decision? Look, Bryce Young and Will Anderson played in Sugar Bowl in 22 when they had nothing to really play for other than pride. And they played, and Bryce Young, Will Anderson ended up being 1 and 3 in the draft that year. So we'll see. I like it. Maybe, and with this day and age of NIL, guys are getting NIL. I've heard some deals kind of putting a caveat in there, like you got to play the bowl game too. So we will see. Another SEC related football nugget over at Auburn, or former Auburn head coach Brian Harsin, heading to Cal to go be the Golden Bears' new offensive coordinator. He was tabbed as their new OC, and the former Auburn head coach been out of coaching since Auburn fired him 1.5 years ago. He had just 2 losing seasons as a head coach, both of which came at Auburn, but he will head to Cal. And Cal continues their ever-changing of coaches, trying to figure out the right combination out that way. One last nugget here. Tennessee getting ready for their big matchup against Ohio State in the playoffs. Center Cooper Mays, been the leader of that group, that offensive line, has played this season, earning him some recognition. He was named a finalist for the Remington Trophy, given to the nation's best center. First player in school history to be a finalist for this award since its inception in 2000. Mays joins Western Michigan's Jacob Gideon and Ohio State's Seth McLaughlin as the 3 finalists. That's former Alabama O-lineman Seth McLaughlin. So good on Cooper Mays. We had him on at SEC Media Days. Really good guy, and wish him the best of luck. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Coming up next, we got some players announcing they're going pro. We'll tell you who from the SEC is heading to the NFL draft, making official announcements. That's coming away in a sec. First, I want to remind you guys, today's episode presented to you by our friends over at Omaha Steaks, and nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite. And right now, you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, you can score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with the promo code COLLEGE. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com, and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. I love Omaha Steaks. You need to go check them out and look, make a great gift for somebody this holiday season. All right, roll along here. Locked On SEC, part of Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And we've got some dudes entering the NFL draft. Start over at Texas A&M. Nick Scourton announced, of course, he came into the SEC this past offseason, transferring in from Purdue. I thought he was going to have a massive impact in the SEC. He had a nice year. I just thought he was going to take the SEC by storm. You know, we saw him in the spring. He looked like a freak, and I just was like, man, this kid's going to blow up. 5 sacks. I mean, had a nice year. I just thought he was going to be a double-digit sack guy this year, but he wasn't. Like I said, had an impressive season at Purdue in 2023, but he announced he is officially entering the NFL draft for 2025. 6'4", 285 pounds. He is going to get ready for the next level. Also, Shemar Stewart, defensive lineman for Texas A&M, putting a note on social media announcing he is making the jump to the NFL draft. Confirmed Monday he's leaving College Station. He tweeted out, "Is with a heart full of gratitude and emotion, I announced my decision to declare. It's a pivotal step in my journey, and while it's bittersweet to leave behind such a special chapter in my life, I know it's the right move to move forward." Stewart registered just 1.5 sacks in each of his 3 seasons with the Aggies, finishing with 4.5, but it's 65 career tackles, 12 tackles for a loss. You know, I've heard multiple people kind of describe him as like he's a guy with like a lot of ability and talent, and he's just scratching the surface. Like if you can put it all together, he's going to be awesome. 6'6", 290 pounds. I got a feeling both these guys are 2 dudes that are going to go to like the combine and just show up and show out and probably improve their draft stock just based off of, you know, running 40 times and agility drills and all that kind of stuff. How about a guy announcing he is coming back? Good news for Billy Napier. Caleb Banks played 2 years at Florida after transferring in from Louisville. He is set to return to Gainesville. Caleb Banks announcing Monday morning on social media that he is coming back. He's going to give some consistency for them on the interior of that offensive line. 21 tackles, a pass deflection, a forced fumble, 7.5 tackles for a loss, and 4.5 sacks. Started in 10 of his 12 games this season, appeared in all 12 games this year. His best game came against Ole Miss, where he had 2.5 of his 4.5 sacks on the year. Also had 4 tackles and a pass deflection against Jackson Dart, helping them pull off the upset of the Ole Miss Rebels. So Florida building a little momentum here. Billy Napier gets the 6 wins. He got the bowl eligibility. They had a nice recruiting class a week ago. And see if they can go beat Tulane in the Gasparilla Bowl. It will be a lot of momentum trending Billy Napier's way with the Florida Gators. One more note before we get out of here. In terms of basketball news, Missouri, they were fined on Monday for storming the court following the Tigers win over number 1 Kansas over the weekend. Missouri will get a $250,000 fine for their second offense. Their first one was after beating Kansas State in football last season. Since Kansas is a non-conference opponent, Missouri's fine is paid to Kansas. Missouri basketball fans would tell you, storming court, probably fully worth it. But Tigers, one of their best wins of the season already. Tigers have a top win on the young season. They had a loss to Memphis, 7 dominant wins over sub-100 Ken Palm teams, and now a win over number 1 Kansas. So congrats to Mizzou basketball. Really good win for them. And then lastly, one note, I tweeted this out last night, but the Heisman finalists were officially announced. 4 Heisman finalists in Dylan Gabriel, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, and Cam Ward. And for the first time since 2017, the SEC will not have a Heisman finalist. And that year, only had 3 that year, if you remember. It was Baker Mayfield, Bryce Love, and Lamar Jackson. And of course, Baker Mayfield won it that year. Lamar won it, I want to say, the year prior. But Lamar again repeated as a Heisman finalist. But Baker Mayfield won it that year at Oklahoma. But just looking at the last few years, 4 of the last 5 Heisman Trophy winners from the SEC. Can you name them? I'll give you a quick second. 2 from Alabama, 2 from LSU. The 2 LSU were easy. They were both quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels. 2 from Alabama. Was it Devontae Smith and Bryce Young? I think that was right. So anyway, 4 of the last 5. Now it'll be 4 of the last 6 because somebody not from the SEC is going to win it this year. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. Keep checking us out And hey, why don't you check out our buddy Brandon Olson with Locked On Gators. Talked about how Florida is trending in the right direction. Could Florida have a Heisman contender next year? DJ Lagway, who knows? But check out Brandon Locked On Gators. Does a great job. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. Come on back and see us tomorrow. Talking all things SEC. Keep you up to date on all the latest transfer portal news. Come on back tomorrow.